So this is Thursday, July 6th. It's early in the morning, and my column is out. My biweekly column in the Free Press is now out. And I want to just say a few things about what I have written. Grocery rebates, at least that's what the government is calling them. That's not the official name, but that's what the federal government is calling them. Grocery rebates have been put into the bank accounts and sent to people of low income and modest income. Let's put it that way. Approximately 11 million households. That's a lot of households. We've only got 40 million people living in Canada, and 11 million households qualify. So a lot of Canadians are seeing these rebates this week. And I don't want to get into all of the numbers here. I'll just give you ballpark estimates. If you're a single person, you've got no kids, you're living alone, it's generally over $250. And then if you're a family of four, it's much closer to $500. And if you're a senior, it's once again close to approximately $250. I just don't want to quibble about the numbers. Some people are getting somewhat less than that, some people somewhat more, but those are the ballpark numbers, and it's supposed to be just a one-time thing. I don't want to get into the politics of it at all. What matters most to me is the idea of giving people a hand when it comes to the most difficult place that many people witness every single day, and that is the supermarket. And I don't say this because I read about it, because I know people push back and say, Chuck, you can't possibly have a hard time buying groceries for yourself. And no, I'm not here to say that I can walk a mile in someone else's shoes because I'm literally wearing their shoes. I'm not. Audiences, whether it's radio, TV, and everything else that I have done, including newspaper columns, have been very generous with me in two different countries for a very, very long time. I don't deny that. But I also don't deny my own memory. And I have a memory of a woman who was in her very early 20s, and she had just arrived in Canada. She was a political refugee. She was my mom. And so she had just arrived in February of 1957 with my pop and me. And so I was 2.5 years old. And she was taking her 2.5-year-old toddler for a walk. And I saw another toddler with something in her mouth that I wanted, no different than any baby sees another baby eating something, and I wanted the same thing. I'm having whatever she's having. I wanted what was in the streets of Montreal known as a Vienna roll, what many of you watching may be calling a Kaiser Roll. So that's why I'm calling this Mom Could Not Afford a Kaiser Roll. This is 1957 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. What was the price of a Kaiser Roll? One. Not $1, not one loonie. 1 penny. My mother literally did not have a penny to buy her child a roll. I am reminded of that story every Mother's Day. So once a year, I endure that story. And when I say endure, I mean it. It is tough to listen to. Frankly, it's tough to talk about. But I have said to people for many, many years, just because something is personal and emotional and remains tender doesn't mean that I have the right to hold it back. Doesn't mean that I have the right to repress it or suppress it or hide it from you. There's no way that we can have an authentic one-on-one relationship, which is what all of these visits are about, unless I fully disclose. And so I know that when I fully disclose, I'm not just disclosing on behalf of my mom in this case, but on behalf of many human beings living in this country right now. Now, the Kaiser rolls don't cost a penny. They're much closer to $1. And yes, we can get into the bowels of inflation and how maybe $1 today is a penny then. It doesn't matter. That's not what matters. I rarely want to take these conversations into the bowels of public policy, and you get enough of that on a million other podcasts. I don't want to talk about public policy. I don't want to talk about politics. I want to talk about how difficult it is to go to the supermarket today and see plums for $10 for a little basket of 3 pounds, and strawberries for $7 and $8 for a basket. Bread, loaves of bread for sometimes $4 and $5. They've got fancy names. I get all of that. But it doesn't matter what you want to buy, whether it's bread or bologna, whether it's a Kaiser Roll or a bag of radishes or a box of grapes, cornflakes, everything feels dramatically more expensive than it did a relatively short time ago. And for those people who have trouble with the idea of buying even a roll for their child, people like my mom a number of years ago, it's difficult for me to sit here and resent the idea of our national government, which represents all of us, giving people a hand up. Whether they get the hand up or not, the pain is enduring. It endures for a lifetime. How do I know it? I know it because when I look in the eyes of that 23-year-old who is now an 89-year-old, she still experiences it. And how does she experience it on a practical basis? She refuses to get things that she feels she cannot afford, but she can. And she refuses to get a hand up from her own so-called successful son. So what does that mean? Well, we've got sweltering heat in central Canada, which is where she lives. It's a long, hot summer, a long, hot, humid summer. It's not easy sometimes finding sleep in your bedroom when there's no air conditioning. She doesn't want to have an air conditioner in her bedroom because she feels she cannot afford it, because in some part of her mind, she is still that 23-year-old who didn't have a penny to buy her child a roll. Thank you.